you're allowed to want her. You're just not allowed to admit you paid for it. And that's what we're going to be talking today on the Sips Experience podcast. And Katy had written something on the Hassle Ambassador board, and she's going to be telling us all about it.
Hello. Basically, I saw a post about how men will consume OnlyFans content and consume that model, but then they will shame that model and degrade her. And we're trying to get to the root of why is that so common in society. And I believe there are two reasons. One, masturbation is taught to be something that is shameful, and men are looking for someone to blame for the temptation to make them want to do that act. And then furthermore, it's deeply rooted, I think, in Christianity and how Eve, because she took the apple and she took the bite, and she was the one who was naughty and, was the rebellious one. And as a result of that, everyone suffered the consequences. And it just goes to reiterate, I think that's what I'm saying, how sin is wrong. Well, sin is wrong. You know what I mean? Like temptation is wrong. Desire is wrong. Pleasure is wrong. And it was the woman's fault. She was the cause of it. And that furthermore goes back to the point that women are not going to be respected. And it encourages patriarchy to be dominant. Does that make sense?
So basically that like women don't stop being people just because they open an OnlyFans or they may be quote slutty, or it's this internal shame that the society, aka maybe men, feel toward themselves, that they're projecting out onto the creator as if she is the one that's the problem rather than them being the consumer. And you can't consume something. I mean, we don't create things if it's not going to be consumed. So
supply.
It's literally taking the blame and putting it on to what you're watching. And again, I think it comes back to not looking at us as if we are entertainers and looking at us as if maybe there's a confusion of who you are to that person and what type of relationship they have to you. Because I know for me personally, like when I'm on social media or something like that, all of us get just tons and tons of DMs, and it's for me, it's always solicitation. It's always them trying to meet up with me, them trying to date me, them trying to ask me out, them trying to act like there's no boundaries and they can do whatever they want because they've masturbated to what I created.
They think they have. Yes. I mean, I'll tell you a really funny example. This is a slight side note of a DM I once got. And I call it a love story in 5 acts. So it was basically like 2017, I got a DM from this person that said, I love you so much. I want to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And then like 2 years later, the same person, Katy, baby, please, I want to meet up with you. And then a year later, baby, why you don't reply? I love you so much. And then another 6 months later, it was, fuck you, whore.
I mean, seriously, but that's what we get we get this strange harassment.
And then it was like the next message was 6 months after that. It said, baby, please forgive me. I'm so sorry. I love you. And he's just having a conversation with himself.
Yes.
Hilarious. And this was over the course of like 6 years.
That's when, like we were talking before we even got on to here about, harassment of creators, not just OnlyFans creators, but creators. We're public facing figures that put ourselves out on the internet. This is how we make a living. This is how we pay our bills. This is something we have to do because otherwise this is not our career anymore. And for some reason, the general public feels entitled to be able to say whatever the heck they want to us, treat us a certain way, have expectations that are not true. And then it brings in the issue with deep fakes and things like fake accounts. Like we were just talking about the fact that I have over 200 fake accounts that have stolen all my content on TikTok. And they won't take them down. And it doesn't matter how many times I report it. It doesn't matter if I pay a company to even send a DMCA, which is notification that is illegal to publish. it's piracy. They've stolen my content. They've created these fake accounts and nothing is stopping them. So they're out here soliciting and acting as if I'm going to meet up with anybody, which is never the case. So it's almost like a perfect storm of, we get all the hassle as the person who created the content that you're enjoying, instead of you taking the personal responsibility for your own habits, behaviors, and how you treat people. And it brings it back to, I don't know, I don't think it's so much an ethics complaint as it is that it comes down to control. Like, who are the people that are out here creating this content that you're shaming? Are most likely it's women, for one thing, because in the adult industry, we make most of the content. We are most of the creators, and men are the ones that are consuming it. Now, that doesn't apply to every creator community, but in ours, for us, I think it's like a cultural thing where it's like, okay, I can enjoy it, but I'm also gonna, if I say that it's okay that I paid for this, then I've lost the control over the situation.
Yes, and men like to degrade women who like sex, because a woman, stereotypically within society's expectations, is only allowed to be sexual if she's in the confines of a romantic, loving relationship. So for a woman to express herself sexually outside of that is taboo. It's shocking. Women, women can't have one night stands. That's what men do. Women get attached. Women are emotional. It's like, no, women, we are sexual creatures and we love to express ourselves. And men can't get their heads around that. Hence the need to go back to control.
Yeah. And the culture demands that women be desirable, right? They want us to look pretty. They want us to do these things. Well, even, and they want you, sorry, but they want you to be a slut until they don't want you to be a slut, because they don't want to portray that in public. They don't want their wife to be considered that. But at the same time, they do want you to be that. Or they're watching other people who are portraying that on video, and that's what they want, and say that they want their wives to be. So it's very hypocritical. It's very kind of a mixed up thing.
Well, women can be in two lights, and it goes back to Madonna-whore syndrome. She's either the sexual object that they don't respect, that they jerk off to, and then they feel shame and they shame her, but you do not respect the whore. She has one purpose, and she is desirable, and for that we're going to shame her. And then there's the wife, the mother of your child. She uses her lips to kiss the head of her baby. You're not going to make her do anything disgusting with, but sexual with those lips, because that's just inappropriate. So they go elsewhere because they can't see that light anymore. And women, you're binary. You cannot, God forbid, a woman can be both the Madonna, the loving, pure, amazing person, and a sexual minx in the bedroom.
Yep.
And
there's actual psychology behind that. And like Brené Brown, she talks about shame versus guilt, and that guilt is, I did something bad, which is manageable, and shame is, I am bad. Like, in other words, because of this thing I'm doing, because I'm watching adult content, because I am signing up for OnlyFans, whatever it is, that's making me a bad person, rather than the thing I'm doing is bad. So I think that that's where, yes, you can have this guilt if you have made the decision between you and a partner, say that you're not going to watch porn every night, or maybe you're not going to sit there and watch porn for 12 hours every day, whatever the case may be, whatever you're agreeing to, but then you do it, right? Then you can have this sense of guilt, like, I kind of broke that, right? But when it comes to shame, it's a deep embedded feeling. It's also like extremely low vibrational energy. So that shame comes from the outside instead of the inside. And by doing that, I feel like they have to project it back out. So they don't internalize it. They don't want to internalize the shame. They don't want to internalize that, oh, I'm a bad person. So instead of looking at as if the behavior is a bad thing, they're externalizing it, and just
their victim, their environment is how they're processing it. The woman, they're the victim.
Yep.
They were coerced into.
You also talked about, like you just said, the Madonna aspect of it, the religious aspect of it. And that's, again, shame, deeply rooted in that, traditional Christian teachings. Like you said, temptation, desire have been about sin and punishment. And honestly, in my opinion, they've removed, most modern religions have removed the divine feminine aspect out of divinity, out of the spirit. They, in the past, we've had female goddesses and gods and things that where the feminine was still included in that. And actually, I was having a conversation with my mom because she loves Native American art and she's always been very connected to Native American culture. And we were talking about the fact that they have female divine beings. They have their gods that are females, and because they're way more connected to Mother Earth, they're way more connected to nature. And nature is feminine. Nature is growth and creation. And the more masculine we are, the more we have separated the spirit from the soul, from the body, and made it different things, as if like we're going to heaven or hell, or instead of it understanding that you literally, it depends on this frequency of energy that you decide to live in. It has nothing to do with this external being. Like all of us have some form of divine within us, like that spark that created you.
Our soul.
Yeah, a soul, which I guess, is that a bad word? Like, are we not supposed to? I mean, because I do believe in those things, but at the same time, you can't live your life in that lower vibrational energy of guilt and shame and judgment. Judgment is that external part of it. If you're too worried about what other people think about you. And the fact is that nobody actually even cares about you. Nobody thinks about you. I mean, honestly, like when it comes down to it, like how often are people actually thinking about you? You are thinking about you.
Exactly.
So
Especially busy living their own life.
Yeah. And to put that on to creators when they're out here making a living and they don't know you personally, they don't know your situation, they don't know how you've grown up, they don't understand your own limiting beliefs in life. So it all it turns into is online harassment. And
Yeah.
we talk about the last episode of being part of Household and helping that and theirs is really into harassment of women, but I think that also can be expanded to people in general online, and that it's all, if most people would see themselves as projecting what their thoughts are in their own head, then they would understand that like those are your own feelings and you can't put them on somebody else, because once you do, then you're bringing that person something that they don't, for one thing, it just doesn't make any sense. Like you're bringing it into my DMs, because now you love me, you don't know me. Like you've watched a movie. Do you go tell, Angelina Jolie that you're in love with her too? Probably, but.
But the thing is with masturbation, people feel like they've had an intimate moment with the person, and there's a bond that's been formed between the screen and them, which is why they feel they have agency to say what they say.
Well, and that's where the understanding between fantasy and reality comes into play. And that's where, as we were also talking about before we even came on here, of this idea of conscious consuming. When you watch anything online, you don't know if it's real or not.
Yeah.
All these reality TV shows, they're very produced. Nothing is what these people do on a normal basis. They get together and they film and they create content. And creating content means we're out here trying to either entertain you, sell you something, teach you something, get you interested in a conversation. We're all out here now as independent creators trying to create this world where all of our ideas are expressed. And I think it is something where, well, AI is going to make a big difference, because AI is already like 99% of deep fakes and non-consensual content is intimate content. So, I mean, and they can take anybody and do it to them. So, it's different than us who have chosen to put ourselves on the internet, and we have strict consent rules in the adult industry of how, and really period with creators, that we all have to sign paperwork. We all agree to what's happening. It's very much a production, but the problem is that society they can't distinguish.
And it's ethical.
Between it. Yeah, and they can't distinguish that because they don't see that part of it. Again, okay, well, maybe you've watched something.
That's illusion of the mystique of the fantasy.
Exactly.
And the audience don't. And maybe if they did.
And it's like on any film that we're trying to create a fantasy that seems like reality, but it's not. And that's where I think the distinction comes with, if you're talking about a movie that's on Netflix, or you're talking about a movie that's at a movie theater, then people are pretty understanding that this is not reality, unless they say it's a documentary or something like that. But when you're talking about content creation for social media, for YouTube, for any of these adult platforms, for streaming, for gaming, for influencers, those are not necessarily reality. It may look like
I know.
reality, but that
It's
doesn't
performative.
necessarily mean it is. And because it's always going to be some form of production. You know, my set behind me, yeah, that's a part of my room, but you don't see the other half of my room. You know, with the lights and the stands and the crap everywhere. You know, so
Same.
it's really seeing like what is the difference. And I think that's a key to just understanding when you are a public facing figure that things are a little bit different and you have to be able to distinguish that. And I think that's important to teach people is how to consciously consume something with understanding that it may be real, it may not be real, it may be AI, which is completely fake. And it's getting so good now that you just never know.
It's terrifying.
So what's the piece from your post about being wanted but not respected? Like you said, there's issues with like respect and that understanding that just because we're online creators, adult creators, that we don't deserve that respect. Things that's like a real framework. And it like there's objectification theory, which is by Barbara Fredrickson and Tommy Ann Roberts, sorry, said the name wrong, that women socialize from a young age to see themselves through an outside evaluative gaze, meaning like it's easy to objectify if you've been raised to see yourself from what other people see you as, rather than see yourself from who you truly are.
Right. That makes sense.
Basically, that objectification by others, it in itself is non-consensual and extractive.
Yeah.
Because it's once you're objectifying someone, they become a thing. They lose their humanity and they stop being something where you see them as an actual person, but more as a product.
Okay,
And
so here's what I wrote.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the first thing I wrote about respecting OnlyFans models, society often teaches men to feel shame around self-pleasure, leading some to externalize that shame and seek someone else to blame for their own desires and actions. OnlyFans models are subsequently cast as the licentious antagonist, the embodiment of temptation rather than individuals simply expressing and monetizing their sexuality. And then I go on to say it's deeply rooted in certain Christian teachings where temptation and desire have historically been associated with sin and punishment. The story of Eve eating the forbidden fruit is a powerful example. Eve becomes associated with temptation and transgression, reinforcing a cultural narrative in which female desire and sexuality are portrayed as dangerous, irresponsible, untrustworthy, or morally corrupt. In turn, this perpetuates this attempt to place blame on women for both sexual temptation and its perceived consequences. I think I nailed it.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it comes down to because of this internalized shame, like we said, it's projected back onto the creator, back onto the girl. Like, I mean, it may not even be an adult creator. It may just be somebody who's online and literally it's put back onto you.
Yeah, and we just need to encourage people to just accept sexual, like, wellness, you know, and just be like, it's okay. As long as everyone's consenting or you're in a private space and it's just you and the screen, it's okay. You're allowed to enjoy your body. It's one of the most beautiful gifts that nature has given us, you know. And the reason it's frowned upon is to do with control from the church.
Yeah.
And that's
easy. Yeah. I mean, I do think historically that's where it comes from. And, you know, the biggest thing is a difference between being objectified, harassed and objectified by somebody else externally rather than a self-directed commodification, meaning like it's consensual. I get paid. It's all mine. I get to create what I want to create. And I think that's also a misconception. Like with OnlyFans, it's not always hardcore sexual content. Honestly, they don't even like that. Most of the time they prefer, you know, solo things, more intimate, more talking, that types of things. And there's so many mainstream actresses that have slowly joined and reality TV people. And now we've talked about OnlyFans TV and that there's safe for work type of content. So like that's becoming bigger and bigger. And that expands with the creator economy in general, is these platforms out here that you can have direct to fan contact. And it may be adult, but it may not be. And it may be just, you know what, I've built a fan base. Anybody that builds a fan base, now they can get onto a fan creator platform and be able to actually talk to their fans without having to have a middleman and rely on a big company that's out here trying to do it.
Yeah, it's accessibility, which can be if it's respected.
Yeah. Now, we also talked about like autonomy and consent. And I feel like that's like the whole core of your post, is like, as long as the women choose to create the content on their own free will, then there's nothing wrong with it. And so we shouldn't be shamed for it, because that's the whole intent, is that it's autonomy and we're making the choice. If we're not making the choice, that's different.
There's a favorite quote of mine that I've seen online. I think it's from Peaky Blinders, and it's Cillian Murphy. And one of the characters goes, "Am I a whore?" And Cillian Murphy's character goes, "We're all whores, Grace. We just sell different parts of ourselves."
Yeah. And we talked about that last time. Is that, you know, in any job, aren't we selling our time? Aren't we selling our likeness? Aren't we selling our voice? It doesn't matter what job you're in some way, if you've chosen to commodify it.
Yeah. So what is sexual? Sex is one of the most wonderful things in the world. Yeah. You know, why not have fun with it? Why not turn it into a business?
Well, and I pulled up some hard data. So this is like how many women are actually doing this, right? I don't think we talk about enough. 4.6 million creator accounts on OnlyFans. So it is.
I love that.
And then there's 375 million plus registered fan accounts. That's just on OnlyFans. And there's lots of different platforms out there now. So if you think about that, it's a huge economy. You're talking about fans spending north of like $7 billion on the platform just last year. And women, since we're not going to harass women and we're going to support women estimate roughly 70 to 84% of the creators on there. So it comes down to,
we're taking control.
The women are the creators. The women are making it, and the men are the consumers. They're the consumers. And what is wrong with that picture? Yeah, because we're out here trying to be able to support ourselves and actually being able to support ourselves.
Yeah, and we're going to be objectified whether we like it or not. So we might as well utilize that to our advantage.
Well, and take control, you know?
Embrace our body and appreciate what we've been given and enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, basically, that's pretty much what we were talking about today on your post. Like, that's pretty much what we discussed on there. And like I said, I pulled up some like examples of it, and like you said, the Madonna-whore complex, that's Freudian, and so definitely wrapped up in not only religion but psychology, if you're not a quote religious person. You know, the whole purity culture online of like girls internalizing their bodies and that it should just be like you're made for male temptation. That's your intent. That's what we're teaching you, is that's why you're here, is to find a mate. And I think when women take control of their sexuality, for one thing, I think that's one of the most powerful things that we have is our sexuality. I also think that women have extremely powerful sacral energy because we have a wound and we create life. And, you know, the wound itself is the portal to that divine spirit. Men can't bring another spirit into this world. Only we can.
And religion said Adam's rib created Eve. So there's propaganda there.
Well, I mean, I that's where it comes back to. I can't buy into all that, is that, you know, women's desire got coded as like the original sin. And so it like removed like even the story of Jesus and Mary, like Mary's removed, like Mary Magdalene was like his, you know, healer. Like Mary Magdalene was the one that like went along with Jesus and spoke to him all the time and was like his confidant. But they've just removed all these stories because then it pushes the patriarchy. It pushes that idea of like misogyny and patriarchy. And if every single society is built on the patriarchy in Western civilization. Now, I'm not saying all men are bad. I have, my own children that are men, and I love my men. I love my gentlemen, key
Yeah.
gentle. I think that we've lost the gentle. I think you and I and other people in this industry need to have those conversations about, things don't have to be the extreme. They don't have to go hardcore. That we can actually talk about intimacy as if it's something that's part of our human experience, and that we're human and it's not just a visual thing. Men are visual creatures, aka the reason that we can commodify and sell this content. But it's a fine line between objectification and commodification, which are the two different
Mm,
things.
yeah.
We are being objectified if you're not willing to pay. We're being objectified if you're not willing to show respect. We're being
Yes.
objectified if you're not willing to protect and provide for us, but you expect and feel entitled to some sort of sexual intimacy. I mean, it has to be a give and take situation, because in my opinion, men are here for this physical 3D world. That's why they do so well. They're very successful in this physical 3D world. Women, we are more of that 5D spiritual energy, but together, that's how we create a better world for each other, is to understand that you can't go around harassing people, calling them names, or shaming them for their existence. And
Exactly.
I think, this will be a topic that we bring up a lot within other conversations throughout, the time here on our podcast, because, I think the creator community does have issues with harassment. I think online harassment is an issue, I think it's an issue for everyone, but I also think that we have a unique experience because we are forward facing people.
There's no consequences to harass someone online. Like in a lot of countries, verbal abuse isn't seen as a crime. In England, it is, and you can be prosecuted for it. It is a form of domestic violence.
Yeah. Well, and
And
they just, I think, passed, for some reason, I think Florida, but somewhere just passed that, and I may be wrong with the state, that domestic emotional abuse is considered domestic violence now. So you can go to jail
yeah,
for emotional abuse.
but and applies to online harassment.
Yep. Yep.
It's the same. Words, words are bullets, and people forget that, and it
Well,
has
and
real.
you've got to think about, like, we can talk about our industry, but at the same time, like, everyone, you shouldn't be out here you can't say, yes, I believe in free speech. I can't tell you what to say, but I would hope that you actually have some kind of moral concept or understanding
Yes,
that, like, what you're saying actually may affect somebody, and that something in you says, you know what, why, if you can't, say something nice, don't say anything. Oh, like, practice
no,
random
that's
acts
how.
of caring and kindness. Like,
That was how I was literally taught. If you've got nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. It's
and
not
I'm
hard.
not, and I would never go out and harass somebody or bully somebody online. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And if we're going to support women and anti-harassment against women, we have to include ourselves, because
Yes.
our industry, again, 84 women. And so you're taking such a large, big chunk of the portion of the creator community and saying, oh, we're not going to support them and we're going to push them aside as if there's something different. And they need to be held with kid gloves. Like, I mean, some kind of weird way
Yeah.
of treating us just because of the type of content we make. But no, go ahead. You go.
No, reframe how people view sexuality. That's what it comes down. And masturbation, the shame around masturbation and how people are raised to be taught not to do it and all of that. That's what we need to start discussing more, I think, and getting rid of and the shame around it.
The sexual shame.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, because
The
again,
roots of
everyone,
how to
we're just
change it.
mirrors for each other. So if you have a deep embedded shame about your own body, your own sexuality, your own energy, your own connection to people, if you've been taught these limiting beliefs of, sin and sex go together, well, when you have a natural instinct to go and find desire and pleasure, then you also are bringing in this limiting belief of shame and judgment. And
So
that's where it becomes a problem, because then you're just putting that on to people who now are on the internet and work in this industry rather than, and even your own partner. Like it happens in marriage where, you know, your own shame is the problem, but now you're taking it out on your partner. So,
Ali, and shame is a social construct. Sexuality and sex is natural.
yes.
Is a gift, and people need to differentiate between what they've been ingrained into them through society versus what you use for instinct.
Right.
It's okay. It's okay.
Exactly. You know, it's just desirability gets demanded from women constantly for free. We should look a certain way, be a certain way, act a certain way, never age, never, you know, all these things. But the second that she takes control of that and monetizes that, then we're going to punish her for it.
Exactly.
And that's where it comes in. That's I understand that's the reason why you actually wrote the post is like, why are we not also protected? Why are we not having this anti-harassment protecting us as creators? And, you know, I know we'll talk about that further. But if this hits something for you, anyone who's listening today, then please check out the Self-Love Circle on Patreon. I go deeper into this stuff. Also, Katy and I will be back. We're excited for more episodes. The next one, we're going to actually dive into the history of the adult industry before these platforms came, before the internet took over, and, you know, how both of our experiences have kind of like, you know, moved us along and gotten us to this path. So we're excited for next time. And I hope you guys have enjoyed the conversation, and we'll see you then. Bye, guys.
Take care. Bye.